I've only just realized that I let the men I call my family and friends ruin my marriage. It's been nearly 2 whole years since my divorce, and just the other day, during one of our usual hangouts, things took a hilariously unexpected turn. My dad, a spry 67-year-old, along with my 2 older brothers, aged 37 and 40, and a bunch of our pals, 4 of them to be precise, all ranging from 35 to 41, decided to let loose with a few drinks. Now, when these guys get together and start tossing back a few, you can bet there's bound to be some outrageous banter. So there we were, laughing and swapping stories when the conversation somehow veered into the realm of my failed marriage. Now you'd think this might be a somber subject, but not with this crew. Oh no, they turned it into a comedy show. With tongues slightly loosened by the alcohol, they began ribbing me about why on earth I let my ex-wife slip away. Soon enough, the talk turned to them making passes at my ex since the split. Can you imagine? My own flesh and blood, along with our buddies, confessing that they've all taken a shot at winning her over, only to be shot down each time. According to the tales they spun, she'd politely turn them away, citing reasons like, it wouldn't be right, or it wouldn't be fair to him. Now, I couldn't tell if they were pulling my leg, or if there was a grain of truth in their stories, but either way, it had us all in stitches. Who knew divorce could be such a comedy goldmine? I played along with their jokes, chuckling to ease the tension and hoping they'd spill more beans. And boy, did they. Once they thought I was in on the humor, the floodgates opened, revealing a whole river of their thoughts. Turns out, behind their raucous laughter lay a darker undercurrent of suspicion and distrust. They confessed to deliberately sowing seeds of doubt in my mind about my ex-wife's fidelity. According to their twisted logic, why would a catch like her be interested in a guy like me, unless there was some ulterior motive, right? They insinuated that she wore the pants in our relationship, painting me as some sort of easily manipulated pawn. Their negativity didn't stop there. Whenever I confided in them about something going on in my marriage, they'd add a sour twist or offer downright terrible advice. Then, when the pandemic hit and I lost my job, they wasted no time in suggesting that now, with the financial security gone, she must be off gallivanting with someone else. Tragically, I believed their poison-laced words, swallowing their toxic concoction of suspicion and distrust like a bitter pill. Their relentless negativity wormed its way into my thoughts, poisoning the well of trust that once sustained my marriage. And before I knew it, their words had become self-fulfilling prophecies, tearing apart the very fabric of the love I held dear. Our once blissful marriage turned into a battleground of constant arguments and accusations. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right, that maybe my wife didn't truly love me. Every little thing became fodder for my suspicion, and I found myself questioning the very foundation of our relationship. In my misguided attempts to assert my worth, I spouted off all sorts of nonsense about being a high-value man and demanded that she appreciate me more. Then, when the cruel hand of fate left me jobless for 6 agonizing months during the pandemic, I did a complete 180 and accused her of disrespecting me for not bringing home a paycheck. But here's the kicker, I failed to appreciate all the hard work she put into keeping our household afloat during those tough times. She was the one shouldering the burden of bills and expenses while I wallowed in self-pity. Instead of expressing gratitude, I let my insecurities and the poisonous whispers of my so-called friends drive me further into paranoia. Before I knew it, I was hurling baseless accusations at her, accusing her of infidelity with her innocent co-workers. It was a downward spiral fueled by my own insecurities and the toxic influence of those around me. And in the end, it wasn't just my marriage that suffered. It was my own sense of self-worth and the trust I once held dear. In the aftermath of her departure, the weight of reality hit me like a ton of bricks. It was as if a tornado had swept through my life, leaving behind nothing but debris and regret. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, convinced that she had abandoned me for another man. As the dust settled, the harsh truth stared me in the face. The very people I trusted, my own flesh and blood, had played a hand in dismantling my marriage. The realization was like a punch to the gut, leaving me reeling with anger and despair. I couldn't fathom how I had allowed myself to be manipulated by those I held closest to my heart. Our confrontations escalated to physical altercations, and in the end, I had no choice but to sever ties with them completely. Left to grapple with the wreckage of my marriage and the shattered remnants of my trust, I found myself at a crossroads. Desperate to salvage what remained of my shattered life, I knew I had to take action. And so, with a heavy heart and a glimmer of hope, I reached out to my ex-wife, seeking a chance to make amends. The prospect of meeting her filled me with both anticipation and dread. How could I possibly articulate the depth of my regret and the sincerity of my desire for reconciliation? The words eluded me, and I found myself grappling with the uncertainty of whether forgiveness was even possible. As we sat across from each other, the weight of our shared history hanging heavy in the air, I knew that this was my moment of reckoning. With a trembling voice and a heart laid bare, I began to speak, pouring out all the regret and remorse that had been festering within me. I bared my soul, acknowledging my mistakes and the pain I had caused. In that vulnerable moment, I could only hope that she would see beyond the wreckage of our past and recognize the genuine sincerity of my plea. Whether there was a chance for us to rebuild what had been lost remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: I was willing to fight for the love that had once defined us. Edit. I've heard some folks saying, "You chose your friend's words over your wife's," but I reckon that's oversimplifying things a mite. See, when it's your own kinfolk involved, folks you've trusted since the get-go, it ain't so easy to see through their charade. My old man, bless his heart, was the ringleader of this whole mess. It's a mighty tough pill to swallow when your own flesh and blood turn against you, along with your closest buddies. Now, I ain't one to shy away from owning up to my mistakes. Lord knows I messed up big time. I reckon it was my own blind trust and gullibility that let this whole circus play out the way it did. I'm square with that. I take full responsibility for the havoc I wreaked on my marriage. Accusing my wife of things she never did, casting doubt on her character, ain't nothing but regret coursing through me for that. It's like trying to hold on to water with a sieve, all them what-ifs and if-onlys slipping through my fingers. If my ex-wife don't see fit to accept my apology, I ain't about to kick up a fuss. If she reckons she's better off without me, well, who am I to argue? I'll tip my hat, wish her all the best, and step back, letting her carve out her own path. Sometimes the hardest part of saying sorry is accepting that forgiveness might not be on the cards. And that's a lesson I've learned the hard way. So whether she chooses to forgive or forget, I'll accept her decision with grace and let her find her own peace, even if it means I'm left standing in the dust of what could have been. Update. 6 days later. This past Sunday marked a pivotal moment for me as I sat across from my ex-wife, bearing my soul in a torrent of apologies. To her credit, she met my words with kindness and understanding, yet beneath her gentle exterior lay a firm resolve I wouldn't find forgiveness in her heart. "It's not in my nature to forgive," she confessed, her words carrying the weight of a lifetime's worth of hurt. But despite this, there was no bitterness or resentment in her gaze. Instead, she extended her wishes for nothing but goodness in my life, a testament to her grace even in the face of my failings. But it wasn't just forgiveness she offered. She also shared wisdom born from her own journey of healing. With a gentle hand, she urged me to confront the toxic patterns woven into the fabric of my relationships, starting with my father. She pointed out the ways in which he had shaped my experiences, setting the tone for the mistreatment I endured from my family and friends. Her words struck a chord within me, resonating with the painful truths I had long ignored. And so, with a heavy heart, I made the decision to sever ties with those who had brought nothing but turmoil into my life. It was a step towards healing, one that she applauded with pride. As our conversation unfolded, emotions ran high, tears mingling with the echoes of our shared pain. We revisited the failures of our marriage, laying bare the wounds that still lingered. It was a raw and unflinching exchange, but one that brought a measure of closure to our shared history. And so, as we embraced one last time, the weight of our goodbye hung heavy in the air. Yet amidst the sorrow, there was a glimmer of hope, a newfound sense of resolve to chart a course towards healing and wholeness. And as we parted ways, I carried her words with me like a beacon of light, guiding me towards a brighter tomorrow.